Hi there, and how are you doing? In this video, we are going to be looking at one of the most commonly used JavaScript methods when working with arrays, and that is the map method. So the map method is basically like a loop or an iterative method that creates a new array populated with the result of calling a function on every element in an existing array. Now, I know this definition might be a bit complex, but let's actually see the map method in action to understand this definition. Alright, on my screen right now, I have an array of numbers from 1 to 4. Now, let's say I want to create a new array, and the elements in that array would be the result of multiplying each element in the numbers array by 2. So basically, I want to end up with something like this. As you can see, where I have 1 in the initial array, which is the nums array, in this new array I have 2, and 2 is the result of multiplying 1 by 2. Same with when I have 2, I have 4, and 4 is the result of multiplying 2 by 2, and so on and so forth. Now, this is a perfect example of when to use the map method. So let's see how to actually use the map method. To use the map method, you call it on the existing array. So in this case, my existing array here is nums, so I'll say nums.map. Now, this method actually takes what we call a callback function, which is the function that it would execute for each element in this nums array. So to do that, we can just go ahead and put a function here. Now, this function would actually have 3 parameters available to it. The first one is the value, which is the current item it is looping through. The next one is the index, which is the index of the item in the existing array. And the next one is the array itself. So this is referring to the nums array itself. So we can go ahead now and have something like this. Now, to replicate this, to get this same array that we got here, what I'm going to do is I would return, keep in mind your map function would always return, okay? So what I want to do here is I'm going to go ahead and return value times 2. Don't forget that value is referring to the current item the array, the map function is looping through at that point in time. So let's go ahead here and do a console.log nums. If I save this and run this over here, you can see we get 1, 2, 3, 4, which I guess it's not what we were expecting. Now, that is because when you use the map function on an existing array, the map function does not change. Okay, it does not mutate the existing array. Okay, it creates a new array. If you remember the definition, it creates a new array populated with the result of calling a function on every element in the existing array. So what we can do is store that new array in a new variable. So I can create a const new, let's call this new nums. Let me go ahead and hide this sidebar so we can see all of our code. So const new num is equals to nums.map. Now, instead of console.logging nums, let's console.log new nums. Let's save this and run this again. You can see we get 2468. So basically how this works is it runs this function, okay, for every element in the existing array, and then populates a new array with the results of the function. In this case, this function right here is returning the value times 2. Personally, I like calling this item or sometimes element, but you can call it whatever you want. All right, now let's look at another example. Let's say I want to get an array, okay, that will be the square root of each element in the existing array. So basically, instead of doing value times 2, what I want to do is math.sqrt, which will give us the square root of that value. You can see I'm using the value again. If I save this and run this again, you can see what I get, the square root of each of these elements in this array. All right. Now, the map method is not just restricted to working with numbers alone. We can work with strings. So let's say I have a string of names, or let's say we have a string of fruits, an array that will contain names of fruits. So we have apples, comma, we have maybe mango, comma, and what else? Let's say we have grape. Okay, now let's say I want to preface each of these names with an X. So I want to have something like X before the name, although I don't know why we want to do that, but let's just say that's what I want, or what I need to do in my program. So in this case, what I can do is, let's go ahead and comment out this piece of code and come up here. I can come here now and say const, just give this a name of X equals to fruits dot map, open bracket, and then inside the bracket we'll write our function. And of course, don't forget we have access to three things: the value, the index, and the array itself. Now I will just say value index. Now I'm not going to add the array because I hardly use this, but if you want to add it, you can just put command the array itself, but I don't need it. So I'm going to do this now, and then I will return. Don't forget, your map method should always return. So what I'm going to return is X as a string plus the value. So X as a string plus the value. What this will just do is to basically concatenate whatever the current value is plus X as a string. And then we can do console.log X. Okay, X is the name of the new array. If we save this, come down here and execute this again, you see what we get: X apple, X mango, X grape. So same thing as the numbers. Now, talking about the callback function. The callback function is this function we give to the map method. Now, you can decide to write the function separately and pass it to the method instead of writing it here like this. So basically what I mean is, I can take away that function, write it as a separate function. So we can say function, give this function a name of, let's say, prefix X. That's what we want to call the function. Let's just call it prefix. Okay, so I can pick this function now and give it to map. All right, if I run this, if I save this and I run this, it still should work fine. Also, instead of using this normal function, if you prefer to use arrow functions, okay, they are big things in JavaScript now. If you prefer to use arrow functions, you can also go ahead and pass the arrow function here. So you can basically come here. Let me just go ahead and grab this here. Yeah, let's just grab this and get rid of this. I can just come here and put this like this. Okay, that's the arrow function there. If you save this, you notice that it still works. And again, if you've been working with arrow functions for a while, you would know that since we just have one line of code here, we don't actually need to return this way. We can just go with something like this. If we save this now, and it still works. But this video is not focused on using arrow functions, so I'll just use something that everyone can follow along, hopefully something like this. All right, so using this, map methods can also work with objects, okay? If we have an object or an array of objects in this case, we can still use the map method. So let's say we have an object called persons or students, whatever, and inside the object we are just going to have three objects to represent a person. So let's bring this down here and take this like this. Okay, so let's say the person would have a first name, oops, let's say first name. Okay, and this person's first name is John, and last name is Doe. So we have John Doe with an age of 23. Let's have another object, at least 3 of them. So yeah, first name will be Sarah. Let's go with Sarah Doe, and let's just go with Mark Me. I don't know who bears that kind of name, but let's just go with that. So Sarah Doe is 30 and Mark Me is 21. Now, if I go ahead and save this now, okay, let me go ahead and get rid of this, and we don't need this anymore. So let's get rid of that too. Now, let's say I want to look through this person or array, this object of persons, and I want to return only the names. Okay, I just need the names of the persons. So what I can do is, let's say const names, let's call these names, equals to persons dot, then we'll do map, and in this map function we'll be using the arrow function now. So the arrow function will look something like this. So basically in here, of course, we know we have access to the value, the index, and the array itself, but I'm just going to be using the value and the index. So basically what I want to do here is I want to return first name, value dot first name plus empty space plus value dot last name. Okay, that's all I want to return, and then I want to go ahead and print the names. If I save that, come here, rerun this, you can see what we get there. All right, you can decide to return an object if that is what you want to do. Let's say we want to return an object that would only contain the first name and the last name, but no age there. Probably we don't want the printout to include the age. Okay, in this case, we can just do something like this: return new object, and in the object we are only going to have value dot first name, comma, value dot last name. Oops, we have to give the object a key. So first name is equals to value dot first name, and last name is value dot last name. Let's actually break this down to make it a bit more readable. Fine, save this. If we go ahead and run this again now, you can see what we get: an array containing the objects, and each object contains the name of the person and the last name of the person. So basically the first name and the last name. So basically, and if you notice one thing about the results we get from this map method, it always contains the exact same numbers of items. So if you look at the initial persons array, it contains 3 objects, 1, 2, 3. If you look at the return value from the map method, it would always contain the same number of items. So basically 1, 2, 3, and it has been the same for other examples we've looked at. So like the definition says, okay, the map method creates a new array populated with the results of calling a function on each element in an array. So it basically calls a function on each element in the array and returns whatever you decide to return inside the function. Now, please bear in mind that the map method does not change the existing array. Okay, it doesn't change the existing array, and it executes the function for every element in the existing array, but it doesn't execute for empty elements. So if you have empty elements in the existing array, it won't execute for that. It will basically just skip that and go to the next element. And there you have it. That is the map method and basically how it works. Now, if you find this video helpful, please don't forget to like it and also subscribe to the channel, as that would encourage me to make more videos. Thank you.